Thank you. So I'm Robert Bell. I'm university architect and the director of planning, architecture, and engineering for Miami University. And first off, I'm an architect, not an engineer. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of engineering stuff, some numbers and stuff on the slides that is sort of the limits of my knowledge of the technical side, but I'm going to be talking at sort of a high level, and my colleague in the back, Jeremy, can laugh at me later if I get anything wrong. And then little spoiler alert, we're not going to get to zero. Our plan isn't to get to zero. We likely are still going to have some carbon offsets that we're going to have to purchase, but we want to minimize that as much as possible. And then yes, Miami University is in Oxford, Ohio, Southwest Ohio, about 40 miles north of Cincinnati. This is our town, Oxford. You can see we're in the middle of agricultural land, and if you can see the red outline, that's sort of the main part of our campus. So we're about half the town. We are a residential community. About half of the students live on campus. We have a 2-year live-on requirement. The other half of the students live about a half a mile. About 90% of those students live within a half a mile of campus. So we are a public university, chartered in 1809. Classes started in 1824. Our main campus is in Oxford, but we do have some regional campuses. Our enrollment in 2019 was just under 20,000 students. But you can see we're heavily invested in the undergraduate education. Small, I think we're a Research 2 facility. 2,300 acres of land though, so we have that to our advantage. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Some other stats there on the campus, and then just over 8 million square feet on our main campus. And again, we're residential communities, so 31% of that gross square footage is in our residence halls. So in 2010, this is what our campus looked like from our energy standpoint. And the bottom left is our steam plant, but all the buildings in red, which is the vast majority of our buildings, were fed by steam. And so we knew that we needed to do something to reduce cost, reduce energy, reduce our carbon footprint. So we did look at what our sustainability goals were. We implemented a standard that all of our major construction and new building would be a LEED Silver or better. We implemented a long-range housing plan, so we knew we were going to be renovating our 41 residence halls over the next 15 years or so. And then we developed a utility master plan that really had 3 key points to it. That we were going to have simultaneous heating and cooling, take advantage of that. We were going to be able to produce power along with heat, and we were going to implement some geothermal on campus. We see some other studies there, and then we've revised that over time, and in 2017, we really started to look at converting off of steam. So some of the outcomes that we expected from this master plan: redundancy, resiliency, better safety, less chemical usage, better productivity, and obviously cost savings. And I would say at that point, energy reduction in terms of cost savings was a lot of what was driving the decisions. So for our geothermal plant, this is a load profile of our geothermal plant, and it's pretty indicative of the load profile for the entire university. It's pretty balanced over the year. It's pretty balanced between heating and cooling. So in Ohio, especially like this time of year, we can get 60-degree days. We can get freezing. We had frost already. When I left, it was frost in the morning. We had 60 degrees in the afternoon. So we can take advantage of this. But really what drove a lot of our savings up to this point was a strong culture of continuous improvement. So my boss, the AVP, started at Miami as an intern in physical facilities and has worked his way up. So he's had this mindset from day one of knowing the engineering, knowing the operations and maintenance side. And so every person in physical facilities has, as a part of their performance evaluations, ideas around continuous improvement. All of my project managers have a goal to help reduce the net energy per square foot on all of their projects. But we look for situations in which we can improve existing conditions, look at what we have, and take advantage of that. So this is one example of a project. We have an ice arena with 2 pads of ice. Takes a lot of energy to create ice. So we did some conversions. We took advantage of the heat from that energy, and it resulted in a savings of about $300,000 a year in operational costs. So those are the kind of things that we like to look for. Everyone having ideas, everyone coming up with solutions. So now we look at the same campus and we see a lot less red buildings. The light blue buildings we've converted to heating for hot water. On the light yellow buildings, same thing. We've got simultaneous heating and cooling and converted off of steam to hot water. And then the green in the bottom is our geothermal plant, serves those buildings. So as of today, we have reduced from 2008 our carbon per gross square foot by 52%. That's by those big and small projects. So this is just a graph demonstrating the energy over that time. So 2008 to 2019 on this graph, the red is our fossil fuels, mainly our natural gas for our steam plant, and then the green is our electricity. And you can see that it's gone down. In this, it says 39%, we're, as of today, 41%. And then the actual carbon reduction over that time as well, 39% actual carbon. But as you see this, this gold line, it's while we increased the square footage on campus from about 6.25 million to just under 8 million gross square feet. So that has resulted into a savings over the past decade of about $68 million. But what I like to highlight is that 40 million of that is from those energy savings and just reducing our energy. So the end of our current utility master plan calls for a conversion of one of our plants to geothermal. So the yellow buildings, we've got more yellow buildings on the map now. Those buildings are will be served from that plant with geothermal. And in the middle, we've replaced some of the red buildings with purple buildings, which is a project that will start next summer for the next 2 years, converting buildings to heating hot water off the steam. So reducing the number of red buildings on our campus. So this is projecting out for the end after that conversion. So the carbon per gross square foot in the blue line going down from about 165 kBTU down to 72. And then at the same time, we're increasing our square footage on the campus from about, this one in 2008, from about $6.25 million square feet to just over 8. So then, as we look forward past the current master plan, the president signed the president's climate leadership commitment in 2019, or in April 2020. We'd gotten a lot of pressure to sign it earlier, and we said no. We basically said we didn't know that we could commit to it, that we could actually do what we were going to say we were going to do, so we didn't want to sign it. But we were getting pressure from the students and other places. So in 2019, we formed a committee, and we said, okay, well, let's look at this seriously, and let's see if we can actually sign this. But we want to be able to have intent behind our signing of it. So we did sign it. We joined these other Ohio schools in signing that commitment. So for us, what does it mean? It means under this commitment that we'll have a carbon neutral plan, and that will include our scope 1, 2, and 3. So we in physical facilities are concerned about scope 1 and 2. For us, scope 1, the major things are our fleet, our generation right now of steam for hot water, but also for electricity. And then we have about 50 horses on campus as well that contribute. And then scope 2 is our indirect costs, so the electricity that we're purchasing. Scope 3 is travel, and we're not considering for our purposes. So what does that mean for us? It's about 78% of our total greenhouse gases that physical facilities has a direct response for. So in order to make this an intentional plan, we wanted to include the entire community. So Our committee is headed by one academic and our sustainability coordinator who resides in physical facilities. So this is getting the whole culture to change on campus. We know there's going to be big changes. We know that there's going to be things that people won't like. We're going to have to get education out there. We want to make sure that the curriculum is also coming along with us. And in some places, they're pushing us. So the next steps is we've signed it. Now the clock starts ticking. We have until September 2023 to do our assessment, and then by September 2024 to have our plan to say when we will achieve net zero. So we've hired a consultant, and this is just a representation of all the solutions that they kind of presented to us. On the left side are all the demand solutions, and on the right side are kind of the supply solutions. So the demand solutions are things like our design standards, getting our fleet to be more green, retro-commissioning, things like that. On the right side, you can see there's a lot of things we already said, no, we're not going to do that, or we can't do that. One of the things that we said no to was solar. We have a lot of land, but we have really cheap electricity. So it didn't make sense at this time to do solar. So see, some of the factors in the decision of the direction that we're going to go is, getting all the buildings converted to heating hot water, lowering that temperature for the hot water for the heating, as well as for domestic water. Our load profile is pretty balanced, taking advantage of that. How can we take advantage of our cost of electricity, which is about 5 cents a kilowatt, which is pretty cheap, but it has gone up recently. We know it will continue to go up. And so all these decisions have led us to primarily looking at electrifying the campus. So a couple key points in making that decision and realizing the opportunities there is we do have our own substation. We can produce our own electricity. We can produce about 13 megawatts. But we buy our electricity power by the hour. We take on that risk, and we have realized a lot of benefits from that. But being able to manage our peaks, and so our peak load contribution is a university-wide effort. Emails go out, shut down your computers, turn off the lights, do what you can to reduce our demand, and we generate, and so we shave our peaks, so that it makes a big impact on our cost of energy. So looking forward, for the next version of our utility master plan, how we're going to get to net zero. First thing is that North Chiller conversion plant to geothermal, and then getting off of steam and making the plant for the hot water out of that plant from air source heat pumps. Operating the campus at 140 degrees hot water, so a lot of individual building conversions, as well as the domestic hot water conversions. And then really looking at the scenarios and letting carbon be maybe the trump in terms of the decision making rather than just the cost. So one of the advantages that we have is the land. So this is all the property that we own in Oxford. And you can see a lot of it is natural areas, but we do have some large parking lots and other areas. So we can take advantage of things like ground-based solar, geothermal, where maybe an urban campus could not. So for the geothermal plant, we need about 1,300 wells. That's the size of our parking lot for our athletic facilities. We have another about 5 acres, I think it is, or 8 acres in front of the facility that we could get up to 1,800 wells to expand it if we wanted to. Again, we've looked at solar on top of that and in some other locations, but right now it just doesn't pay out. But again, looking at our load profile, on the left is business as usual. The red and the blue, the heating and the cooling. In the middle, purple is that simultaneous heating and cooling. So we have heating loads all year round. We have cooling loads all year round. So when we're generating one, we're taking the expended energy off of that, and we're directing it in the other direction. And you can see in the long term, we're expanding that quite significantly. But we're also, it's a little hard to see, the dark red and the light blue is then the added advantage of the geothermal. So the light red on the top and the dark blue on the bottom is our conventional heating and cooling that we'll have left at the end of this plan. And so the challenge before us is we've done great job in reducing the carbon, in reducing the energy, reducing the costs, but if we just stay where we're at, all that will go up. So from the bottom is our natural gas. So getting off natural gas for creating our heating will be a main contributor. That gold band is our electricity. So that band will get larger in terms of we will be buying more electricity. However, the grid is getting greener by about 2% per year. And at some point, solar will become more financially viable for us. So we will look at that going down to zero. The yellow band on top of that is our operations and maintenance costs. So anything we can do to reduce that, but we'll have that ongoing, obviously. And then the gray is purchase offsets. So if we do nothing, we will have to purchase offsets. We're looking at reducing that as much as possible. We really don't want to just buy offsets to say we're net zero. We want to be net zero as much as possible, buy offsets if we absolutely have to. And then that spike of the dark blue is really converting that geothermal plant in 2026. That's the capital expenditure for that. So some opportunities. When we started out, all that savings that we've gotten to this point was really in an effort to reduce savings, but to reduce costs. Cost was kind of the factor that was trumping decisions. And this is moving more towards looking at the carbon offsets for that. But a lot of ways we save money was through personnel. Personnel is a large part of your budget, and we did process improvements, efficiencies, where we could eliminate positions, quite frankly. We got rid of our station engineers in the steam plant. So that was a huge personnel cost that we were able to save. So focusing on the carbon footprint, we've got land. Let's take advantage of that. We're a mid-sized campus, so when we do look at solar, that can have a significant impact. And we have the land, we can get a fairly good-sized solar array eventually. And then our load profile is balanced to take advantage of that. So it's really taking advantage of what we have at our disposal, making the situations that we have work better for us. That's it.
Thank you very much, Robert.